He was not a soldier, not a leader, not even a famous scientist. He was just a quiet engineer from a small city who liked fixing things with his hands and watching the stars at night. His days were simple, filled with machines, books, and quiet moments, but one message changed everything. It came from the Galactic Council, the great alliance of planets that ruled the galaxy. The message was short. You have been chosen to represent Earth at the Unity Summit. Please report to Station Solus. At first, Ravi thought it was a mistake. Why would the Council want him? Earth was new to space travel. Most planets saw humans as young and emotional, not ready for serious talks. But the message was real. Within 2 days, he was taken by a transport ship and flown across stars faster than he could understand. The journey felt like a dream. When he arrived at Station Solus, he couldn't believe his eyes. The station was huge, like a small moon made of shining silver and floating lights. Ships from 100 worlds came and went. Beings of all shapes and colors moved through the halls, each speaking in strange languages, wearing different clothes, and shining in different ways. Ravi walked carefully, trying not to stare. He was given a simple room and a soft gray uniform. Then came the real surprise, an invitation to the opening gathering, where all delegates would meet for the first time. The hall was massive, with a high glass ceiling that showed stars above. Chairs were arranged in a large circle, and behind each seat was a floating screen with the name of a planet. Ravi found his seat marked Earth. It was near the edge of the circle. His hands were shaking slightly. He took a deep breath and sat down. Then someone sat beside him. He turned, and for a moment, he forgot everything. She was unlike anyone he had ever seen. She looked human, or close to it, but there was something otherworldly about her. Her hair moved softly as if floating in air, and her skin had a calm, natural glow, like moonlight on water. She wore a simple robe of soft blue, and her eyes, deep, clear, and endless, were fixed on the stars above. She didn't speak. She didn't even look at him. But Ravi couldn't stop looking. There was no pride in her face, no coldness, no mask. She was quiet, still, and calm, and above all, beautiful. Not in a loud or strange way, but in a soft, natural way, like a breeze on a warm evening. He didn't know what made him say it. Maybe the silence, maybe the weight of the moment, but he turned slightly and in a quiet voice said, "You are beautiful." For a second, she didn't move. Then she turned. Her eyes met his. And then she smiled. It was a small smile, soft, gentle. But to Ravi, it was like the sun had risen inside the room. Across the hall, whispers began. Heads turned. Beings from across the circle leaned in, surprised. Some looked shocked. Others stared in silence. Ravi looked around, confused. He leaned toward her. I'm sorry if that was wrong," he said quickly. "I didn't mean to offend you." She continued smiling, her gaze calm. Then, for the first time, she spoke, her voice like quiet music. "You did not offend me." Before he could say more, a tall figure in golden armor stepped to the center of the circle. The gathering had begun. Lights dimmed, and the welcome speech started, but Ravi barely heard a word, because the most beautiful woman in the universe was still sitting beside him, and she had smiled because of him. After the meeting, Ravi walked back to his room in silence. His mind was spinning. Who was she? Why had everyone reacted like that? As he stepped into the lift, a short green being with crystal eyes stopped him. "You are from Earth," it said. "Yes," Ravi answered. "You spoke to Lena from the Varellan Order." Ravi blinked. "Is that her name?" The being nodded slowly. "She has not smiled in over 2 centuries. Her people do not show emotion. They believe it is a weakness." Ravi's mouth opened slightly. "Then why did she smile?" The being tilted its head. "That is what everyone is asking." The lift doors closed. Ravi stood still, his thoughts full of stars and silence. That night, he couldn't sleep. He sat by the window of his room, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was spinning quietly, blue and green in the dark, and here he was, thousands of light years away, thinking about his smile. He didn't know why it mattered so much, but it did. Not because she was famous or powerful or different, but because something simple and human had touched something ancient and distant, a compliment. Smile. That's how it began, and he had a strange feeling. This was only the beginning. News travels fast on a space station like Solus. By the next morning, almost every delegate had heard the same story. The human made her smile. Some whispered it in curiosity, others in disbelief. A few didn't believe it at all. But those who had been in the hall the previous night had seen it with their own eyes. Lena, the Varellan representative, known across galaxies for her silence, her cold logic, her emotionless presence, had smiled. And the reason was not a poem, not a political win, not a grand act. It was a simple man from Earth named Ravi, who quietly said, "You're beautiful." Now, many watched him closely. Ravi, on the other hand, was unaware of most of this. He woke up feeling unsure. Had he done something wrong? Had he broken a rule of intergalactic manners? His thoughts kept circling the same moment, the smile, the silence, the eyes that held more depth than stars. He dressed and left his room early. The station was quiet at that hour. He took a slow walk through one of the outer corridors where the curved windows showed the black ocean of space. Ships drifted in the distance, and stars blinked like distant candles. He stopped to look outside when a voice came from behind. "You walk like someone who carries a heavy thought." He turned. It was Lena. She stood a few steps behind, dressed in the same soft blue robe. Her hair moved as if floating gently in the air, and her expression was calm, but not empty. There was something softer now, something almost warm in the way she looked at him. Ravi tried to stay calm. "I was just thinking about yesterday," she asked. He nodded. "Yes. I didn't mean to bring attention to you. I didn't even know who you were." Lena walked beside him and looked out at the stars. Her voice was quiet. "I knew. You knew. Then I didn't know who you were." Ravi asked, confused. She nodded slowly. "That is why your words were true." He looked at her. "You mean because I wasn't trying to impress you?" "Yes," she replied. "Others speak carefully, always with purpose, always with calculation. Your words had no weight, and that is why they were heavy." Ravi didn't fully understand, but he smiled politely. "Thank you, I guess." She turned to face him. "Do you know what you have done?" He raised an eyebrow. "I made someone smile?" "You made me smile," she said, "and now my people feel it." He blinked. "What do you mean?" Lena stepped closer. "The Varellan Order is not just a council. We are one mind, connected through thought. When I smiled, the feeling touched others. They noticed. They remembered emotions we had pushed away for centuries. Some are afraid." Ravi's voice was quiet. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." "You didn't," she said. "You caused something else. Something new." They stood in silence. For a moment, watching the stars. Later that day, the council hall was busy. Delegates filled the space, speaking in low voices. The air felt heavy with change. Ravi noticed more eyes on him, some curious, others unreadable. When he sat down, Lena was already in her seat. One of the council leaders, a tall being made of living stone, stood and addressed the group. "We open the floor today with a matter of unexpected importance," the being said in a deep voice. "The Varellan Order wishes to speak." The hall became silent. Lena stood. It was the first time anyone had seen her rise during a meeting. Her voice was calm, steady. "My people have lived in silence for a long time. We feared feeling. We feared the past, but something small has changed, something gentle." Many delegates leaned forward. "We do not know if this change will grow," Lena continued, "but we believe it is worth exploring, not because of power, not because of law, but because of something forgotten: beauty, kindness, simplicity." Her eyes glanced toward Ravi for just a moment. "The human from Earth reminded us," she said. Then she sat down again. There was a long pause. The council didn't know how to respond. Some members whispered, some nodded, others looked uncertain. After the meeting, Ravi left quickly. He didn't want more attention. He walked toward one of the open plazas where plants from different worlds grew in harmony. A creature with smooth silver skin approached him. Its voice was like wind and leaves. You made her speak, it said. Ravi sighed. I didn't mean to. That is why it mattered, the creature said. Words without purpose carry strange power. He sat down on a bench, his hands rested. On his knees, everything felt like a dream. One simple sentence had turned the galaxy's attention toward him. Why him? He was not special, not strong, just human, but maybe. That was enough. That night, as he walked back to his room, he passed by the great glass hall again. He stopped for a moment to look at the stars, and there she was again. Lena stood beside the window, quiet and still. He didn't speak first this time. He simply stood beside her. After a moment, she asked, Do you miss Earth? He nodded. Yes, every night. Why? He thought for a while. Because Earth feels alive. It's messy, loud, but full of feeling. People laugh, cry, dream. They love small things, rain, wind, music, kindness. It's not perfect, but it's real. Lena looked at him. Her eyes were not cold now. They held something else, a spark, a memory, a soft light. Maybe that is what we forgot, she said. He turned to her, surprised. What do you mean? She didn't answer right away. Then she simply said, I want to remember. Ravi didn't say anything after that. They stood there together, in silence, watching stars drift slowly across the sky. And though no one else saw it, she smiled again. The next day, the halls of Station Solus were filled with soft whispers, not about war, trade, or politics, but about Lena and the smile that had now become something of a quiet storm. Among the many advanced species of the galaxy, the Varellans had always been respected, not for power or size, but for their perfect control. They did not feel, at least not in the way others did. Their society had once been emotional, long ago, but a great war had pushed them to choose logic over heart. Since then, their people had moved in silence, spoke with reason, and lived without the highs and lows of feeling. But now, the smile of one Varellan and the words of a single human had shaken that silence. Ravi was unaware of how deep the whispers had spread. He spent most of his time walking alone, away from the main halls. He didn't enjoy being stared at. On Earth, he had always blended into the background. Here, everyone seemed to notice him. In one of the garden chambers, he found peace. The chamber was full of soft, hanging plants from many worlds, and the air carried the scent of flowers he didn't know the names of. He sat on a bench and watched the gentle movement of light above. Then he heard footsteps. He looked up and saw Lena. This time, she wasn't wearing her council robe. She wore a simple, white tunic that flowed as she walked, and her hair was tied back, revealing more of her peaceful face. Her expression was calm, but not cold. She sat beside him without saying anything at first. I heard more people are talking about me, Ravi said with a small smile. Lena nodded. They are also talking about me, and my people. Not all are. Pleased, because of the smile. He asked. Yes, she replied softly. They think I am unstable. Ravi looked at her, surprised. Just for showing a feeling? They fear what feelings can become, Lena said. They remember our past. Ravi lowered his eyes. And you? Do you feel afraid too? Lena looked out at the hanging plants. A little. But more than that, I feel awake. He was silent. Then, she said something unexpected. Would you like to visit the Varellan chambers? Ravi turned toward her. Me? Yes, she said. There are things I want to show you. The Varellan chambers were located in one of the oldest parts of the station, a quiet, silver hallway with no signs or guards. The doors opened, without sound. Inside was a world Ravi never expected. The space was made of smooth stone and glowing light, no walls. Just open curves that flowed like rivers. On every surface, lights pulsed softly, changing with each step they took. This place is alive, Ravi said quietly. It responds to thought, Lena explained. This is how we live. In harmony with stillness, as they walked, the light shifted from cool blue to warm gold. It's beautiful, he said. Lena stopped. Our people used to create gardens, paintings, music. But after the war of silence, we chose only logic. Emotion was seen as the root of chaos. She walked over to a pool of glowing water and touched its surface. For centuries, we lived in control. No pain, no joy, just balance. Ravi stepped beside her. Is that why you never smiled? Yes, she said. But then, I heard your voice. Ravi looked at her gently. It was just a compliment. But it was honest, Lena said. And no one has spoken to me like that in many lifetimes. Not as a symbol, not as a leader, but simply as a person. She walked a few steps forward, then turned back to him. I want to feel again, she said quietly. In the following days, more Varellans began to arrive at the council halls. Not just diplomats, but scholars, observers, even artists. It was rare for so many of them to gather in one place. Some stayed silent. Others watched Lena from afar. A few sent quiet messages of concern. But some came to speak to Ravi. They asked simple questions. What do humans feel when they see a sunset? Why do you enjoy music? Is love worth the pain it brings? Ravi answered honestly. He didn't try to sound wise. He just spoke from the heart. Feelings are not always easy. He told one Varellan elder. Sometimes they hurt, but they also help us grow. They help us care. Without feeling, we may not make mistakes, but we also wouldn't make beauty. Lena often stood nearby, listening quietly. One evening, Ravi received a soft alert at his room door. It was a message from Lena. Please meet me in the inner chamber at moonturn. When he arrived, he found the chamber dark, with soft lights floating like stars. Lena stood in the center, next to a strange round structure made of light and threads. What is this? Ravi asked. It is called a memory web, Lena said. It holds the feelings of my people from long ago, before we shut them away. She stepped closer to it. I want to open it. Ravi looked at her with concern. Is that safe? I do not know, she answered, but I trust you. If I begin to fall, I want someone to catch me. Ravi nodded slowly. Then I'll stay. She placed her hands on the web. Light spread across her fingers and into her arms. For a moment, her eyes closed, and the chamber filled with sound, laughter, song, cries, whispers of old love and long pain. Tears rolled down her cheeks, not of sadness, but of memory. After some time, she turned to Ravi. I remember now, she said in a shaky voice. What it was like to care, to love, to dream. He stepped forward, not sure what to say, but she smiled again. Wider this time, filled with light. Thank you, she whispered. And in that silent, glowing room, Ravi understood something simple. One kind word could awaken an entire world. The days on Station Solace were growing quieter for Ravi, but his thoughts were louder than ever. Lena's transformation, the soft smiles, the memories she was recalling felt like a gentle ripple in a vast ocean. He wondered what more lay beneath her calm surface. One morning, as the station's twin suns cast a golden light through the tall windows, Lena approached him again. Come with me, she said simply. Ravi looked up, surprised but curious. Without another word, Lena led him through winding corridors, past the bustling council halls and chambers, to a place he had never seen before, a large dome covered with shimmering glass. Inside was a garden unlike any Ravi had imagined. The air was filled with the scent of flowers from countless worlds. Colors swirled in harmony, deep blues of distant planets, soft pinks from Earth's own cherry blossoms, and golden hues from suns far away. Tall trees with leaves that shimmered like stars stretched toward the glass dome, and delicate vines wrapped gently around smooth stones. The garden was alive, not just with plants, but with a sense of peace that touched the soul. Lena walked slowly, her fingers brushing the petals of a glowing flower. This is the garden of memory, she said softly. It was created long ago, by my people before we chose silence and logic over feeling. Ravi looked around in wonder. Why did you bring me here? He asked. Lena turned to him, her eyes reflecting the colors of the garden. Because this place holds the beauty and emotion we lost, and because you helped me remember what it means to feel." Ravi smiled gently. They walked together to a small pond in the center of the garden. The water was clear and still, reflecting the dome above like a mirror. Lena sat beside the pond, looking into the water. "In this garden, we once shared stories, music, and dreams," she said. "But after the war of silence, those things were forgotten." Ravi nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "On Earth," he said, "people do not always agree or understand each other, but they find ways to express their feelings through art, music, and stories. These things bring people together." Lena listened quietly. "I want to learn more," she said finally. "Not just about feelings, but about how they connect people." Ravi looked at her with warmth. "Then I will teach you," he said, "for the next hours." They walked through the garden, sharing stories from Earth. Ravi spoke of rainstorms that made children laugh, songs sung round fires, and quiet moments spent watching sunsets. Lena told him about Varellan traditions before the War of Silence, how her people once celebrated colors and music, how they laughed freely and danced under twin moons. As the sun began to set, casting soft shadows across the garden, Ravi noticed Lina's smile had grown brighter. It was no longer quiet and small, it was full of life suddenly. The peaceful moment was interrupted by a sharp sound and alarm. The garden's soft lights flickered. "Something is wrong," Lena said quickly. They rushed back toward the council halls, where voices were rising in panic. A group of delegates had discovered a planned attack aimed at disrupting the Unity Summit. Some wanted to keep it quiet to avoid fear, but the news was spreading fast. Ravi felt a mix of fear and determination. "This is more than politics now," Lena said, her voice steady. "We must protect what we have started." Together, they moved through the busy halls. Coordinating with guards and officials, Ravi realized that even though he was from a small world, his calm and simple ways were helping others stay grounded. Lena stayed close by, her presence strong and steady. As the night deepened, the threat was contained. The extremists were stopped, and peace was restored for now. Ravi and Lena returned to the Garden of Memory, tired but relieved. Sitting beside the pond, they looked up at the stars shining beyond the glass dome. "Today was difficult," Ravi said softly, "but necessary." Lena replied. She reached out and took his hand. "Thank you for reminding me that even in the darkest moments, there's light." Ravi squeezed her hand gently. "And thank you for showing me that even the coldest hearts can warm." They sat together in silence, two very different souls connected by hope and new beginnings. The galaxy was watching, and something beautiful was growing. The Unity Summit resumed with new energy and tension. The events of the previous day, the surprise smile, the memory web, and the attempted attack had stirred something deep in the hearts and minds of all who had gathered. Ravi felt the weight of it. He was no longer just a quiet engineer from Earth. He was a symbol, a spark of change in a galaxy long used to order and silence. The grand hall where the council met was filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds. Tall and short, bright and shadowed, all gathered in a circle that seemed endless. Lena sat beside him, poised and calm, but her eyes held a quiet fire. The leader of the council, a being made of shifting light called Iran, stood to speak. "The question before us is clear," Oren's voice echoed. "Shall Earth, a young and emotional planet, be accepted into the Galactic Accord?" Murmurs filled the hall. Some delegates nodded in favor. Others shook their heads. Ravi took a deep breath. This was his moment. He stood slowly, catching the eyes of many who had looked at him with doubt. "Honorable council members," he began, "I come from a world that is often seen as chaotic and emotional. Yes, we are imperfect. We argue. We make mistakes, and sometimes we fail." He paused, letting the words settle. "But we also dream. We create. We care deeply for each other and for our home. Our feelings are not weaknesses, they are a strength." He looked toward Lena. "I have seen a great being, one who thought she had lost her heart, find it again because of simple kindness." The hall grew quiet. Lena stood next to him. Her voice was clear and steady. "Change is never easy. For centuries, my people have lived without feeling, to avoid pain. But I have learned that to live without emotion is to live without meaning. She turned her gaze to the council. Earth's feelings remind us of what we lost. I stand with this human because he shows us a path back to ourselves. Some delegates nodded, moved by her words. Others looked troubled. The debate grew heated. A representative from a planet called Xylar spoke next. Xylar was known for its strict laws and cold order. Emotions are dangerous. They lead to conflict and destruction. We cannot allow Earth's chaos into the accord. We must protect the galaxy's peace. Others agreed, warning that accepting Earth could bring instability. Ravi listened, understanding their fears. But Lena spoke again. Fear should not stop us from trying. If we close our hearts, we become less than we are meant to be. The council remained divided. After hours of debate, Iran called for a vote. The chamber was tense. Every representative knew this decision would shape the future. When the results were announced, Earth was accepted, but only by a narrow margin. There were cheers and sighs. Ravi felt relief, but also knew this was only the beginning. Lena smiled at him, a smile full of hope and promise. In the days that followed, Ravi found himself surrounded by new faces, curious delegates who wanted to learn more about Earth. He shared stories of his home, of oceans that stretched beyond sight, of cities filled with music and laughter, and of people who faced challenges with courage. Lena stood quietly nearby, learning and growing alongside him. Some Varellans approached Ravi in private. Your courage has opened doors, one elder said. You carry the spirit of Earth well. Ravi smiled, humbled. But not everyone was pleased. Groups that had opposed Earth's entry began organizing. Quiet whispers of resistance spread. Ravi and Lena knew that changing a galaxy was not simple. But together, they were ready. One evening, Ravi and Lena stood on the observation deck, watching the stars drift by. Do you think we can really change the galaxy? Ravi asked. Lena looked at him, her eyes reflecting distant suns. Change starts with one small step, she said. A smile, a word, a choice. Ravi reached for her hand. Then let's keep stepping forward. The stars seemed to shine a little brighter. The days after the council vote were tense. The narrow acceptance of Earth into the Galactic Accord had stirred both hope and fear. Among the delegates, whispers of resistance grew louder. Some did not want Earth's emotions to change the galaxy's careful order. Ravi felt the weight of it all, but Lena stood strong beside him, her presence like a quiet light in the growing shadows. One evening, as the stars outside the station blinked softly, an alarm rang through the halls. A sudden emergency. Ravi was in the common area when the message came. Security breach detected. Immediate lockdown in progress. People around him froze. Guards rushed past, their faces tight with concern. Lena appeared beside him quickly. We need to move, she said. They followed others toward a secure chamber meant for emergencies. The doors closed behind them with a heavy hiss. Inside the small room, the lights dimmed. Outside, the station was locked down. Communication was cut off. We're trapped, Ravi said. Feeling a sudden rush of anxiety, Lena placed a hand on his arm. We will find a way. For a moment, the silence was thick. Then, Ravi spoke softly. Why would someone do this now? Lena's eyes darkened. Some fear change. They will try to stop what we have started. Ravi looked at her, admiring her calm even in danger. We can't just wait here, he said. Together, they searched the chamber. It was small but had emergency controls. Lena studied the panel. If we can override the lockdown, we might open a path. Ravi worked beside her, pressing buttons and scanning codes. The system was complex, but his engineering skills helped. After 10 minutes, a low hum signaled a partial release. The door slid open slightly. They moved out quietly, careful not to alert any hostile forces. The corridors were dim, shadows stretching long. They knew the extremists were somewhere in the station. As they moved, Ravi and Lena talked softly. Do you think this is about more than politics? Ravi asked. Lena nodded. It is fear of losing control. Fear of feeling. Ravi smiled slightly. It's strange that something as simple as a smile can cause so much trouble. Lena smiled back. Sometimes, the smallest light can frighten the darkest shadows. They reached a junction where paths split. We must choose carefully, Lena said. Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind them. They hid quickly as the figures passed by. The figures whispered in a harsh language, plotting to stop the Unity Summit. Ravi held his breath. When the coast was clear, Lena whispered, "We cannot let fear win." They continued down a narrow passage leading to the control center. If they could reach it, they might restore communication and end the lockdown. Inside the control room, machines blinked silently. Ravi moved to a console, fingers flying over controls. "Help me with this," he said to Lena. She watched the displays, offering advice as he worked. The system responded slowly. The lockdown protocols began to lift. Suddenly, a loud alarm sounded. "Security teams incoming," Lena said. They had little time. Ravi hit a final command, and the station systems are EBOOTED. Lights returned. Doors opened. Voices over the intercom ordered the capture of extremists. Relieved, Ravi and Lena stepped into the bright halls. Later, safe in a quiet chamber, Ravi looked at Lena. "You were incredible," he said. She smiled softly, the smile full of warmth and something deeper. "I was not alone," she said. They sat together, sharing a calm moment. "During that time trapped," Ravi said quietly, "I realized how much you feel, even when you tried to hide it." Lena looked into his eyes. "Because of you, I'm learning to live again, to hope again." Her hand found his, gentle but sure. Ravi felt a calm spread through him, a connection not just between two people, but between worlds. They sat quietly, watching stars through the window. A new light had been born, one that might change everything. The days after the lockdown incident were full of quiet hope and careful preparation. The Unity Summit resumed with a new sense of purpose, but the tensions remained. Ravi knew this moment was important not just for Earth, but for the whole galaxy. The final meeting of the council was called in the great chamber beneath the stars. The representatives gathered once more, their faces showing the weight of the decision they had to make. The leader, Iran, stepped forward. "The question remains, will Earth be fully welcomed into the Galactic Accord, or will doubts keep us apart?" Ravi stood beside Lena, feeling her calm strength. He looked around the hall and saw many eyes focused on him, some kind, some doubtful, some curious. He spoke clearly. "We come from a small, imperfect world, but our imperfections are part of our strength. We feel deeply. We make mistakes. We learn." He looked at Lena and smiled gently. "Because of her, I have learned that even the greatest beings can rediscover what they lost." Lena stood beside him and spoke with clear confidence. "For centuries, my people chose silence to avoid pain. But now, we choose to remember, to feel, to grow." She looked around the room. "The galaxy needs balance, logic and feeling together. Earth offers hope for that balance." The hall was silent. Then, a delegate from a distant world stood. "I believe in the future this human and Varellan have begun. We must not close our hearts." One by one, others rose in support. The vote was held. The result was nearly unanimous. Earth was welcomed fully into the Galactic Accord. Cheers and smiles filled the chamber. After the meeting, Ravi and Lena stood on the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly before them, bright and full of promise. Lena turned to Ravi. "Thank you," she said softly, "for your courage, for your kindness." Ravi smiled. "Thank you for trusting me, for finding your smile again." She laughed gently, a sound like soft music. "This is just the beginning," she said. "Our people will heal because of hope." Ravi took her hand. "Then let us walk this new path together." They stood side by side, looking out into the vast universe. Somewhere far away, Earth spun quietly, full of life and feeling. And here, on Station Solus, a new chapter had begun. The galaxy watched in awe as Earth and the Varellans began a journey of rediscovery. Lena's smile became a symbol of hope, and Ravi's quiet strength reminded all that sometimes the simplest words carry the greatest power. They proved that beauty is not only in appearance, but in courage, kindness, and connection. And in the vast, endless stars, humanity found its place not just as survivors, but as shining lights of hope.